Now, I'm not going to be the guy to sit here and tell you that Colin Kaepernick is an MVP quarterback. Colin Kaepernick is this guy that, how I can't believe he's not on a football team. But I'm going to tell you this. There is one and only one reason only why Colin Kaepernick is not on a football team. And we all know what that reason is. I think that it's shameful. But today's going to be an NFL-related video, and we're going to talk about the top 8 logical landing spots for Colin Kaepernick. I'm going to give you 8 teams that Colin Kaepernick would fit the best, and I'm going to explain to you why. Everyone, hit the like button, subscribe, push the video out there, do everything that you got to do. Colin Kaepernick's top 8 teams that he should join and that would fit him the best, go nowhere else. I saw this list going through the other day, and I was like, well, I look at these teams, and I'm like, 1, 2, 3... 7 or maybe 6 out of 8 of these teams make sense, and 2 of these teams I think there's really no chance. I'm going to talk about these. There's 8 teams. It was a list made by, I forgot his name, but it was on Facebook, and the Eagles had posted it or whatever. Not the official Philadelphia Eagles page, I'm not sure, but a page did post it, and I saw it. I'm like, well, this looks pretty interesting. And I'm going to talk about it today. Now, Colin Kaepernick, we know his social justice protesting. You know, and one of the things I don't get, I don't want to jump into controversy here, but one of the things that I just don't understand is the people that sit and they say, the people that are protesting now, why can't they do it peacefully? Colin Kaepernick tried that route. Everyone shamed on him. Not everyone. People shamed him, gave him death threats, did everything. And now a lot of those same people that did that are now on his side and are his #1 supporter. Is good enough to be a quarterback on quite a few teams. Now, here's another thing too: the quarterback opening positions are not as heavy as they once were. You know, we're talking about teams right now. There are not a lot of teams that are looking for a quarterback, especially not a starting quarterback. Now, majority of these teams here, he would not be the starter, and some of them he wouldn't even be the second string. The number 8 team here listed is the Titans. Now, I'm a Titans fan, so I'm going to give you my personal input on this. The reason that a team like the Titans would possibly sign someone kind of like Colin Kaepernick would be a just-in-case kind of quarterback. Ryan Tannehill had a great season last year when he came in, led the Titans all the way to the AFC Championship game. The problem is that a lot of these times when quarterbacks play a great season and get a massive contract, they crap themselves. Now, I don't think Tannehill's going to crap himself, but you have to keep in mind the idea of what could possibly happen. There's a few things. One, like any quarterback, Tannehill could get injured. We don't have a backup quarterback right now. I don't even know who our backup quarterback is. 2, he could crap himself, which would leave the position of who's our backup quarterback. And 3, he can just lose what made him special. Well, I don't even know about 3. 1 and 2 makes sense, though. A team like the Titans would sign Kaepernick to take the pressure off of Ryan Tannehill, which is also something Derrick Henry does, and give them a viable option in the just-in-case scenario where Ryan Tannehill flops or Ryan Tannehill just doesn't mesh well in his second full season for the Titans. Now, me personally, I would not have given Ryan Tannehill a 5-year deal. I would have given him a 2-year deal because he definitely earned it with a trip to the AFC Championship. But 5 years, $118 million or whatever the deal was definitely well overpaid, because here's the problem. Ryan Tannehill can now crap himself, and that is what the situation would be. He would be a backup quarterback for the Titans. You know, but I don't see the Titans being a place where Colin Kaepernick would go. Now, number 7 makes a lot of sense, but it also doesn't. Number 7 is the Eagles. Now, before I get into why the Eagles, I want to say this. Every athlete that performs in Philadelphia, regardless of whatever sport it is, knows the immense pressure that goes into being an athlete, not only in general, but in Philadelphia. The Eagles fans will be your #1 supporter when you are performing for them. But the second that you lack your performance, get in the headlines for the wrong reason, or say something disrespectful about the team or fan base, you are now public enemy #1. And that is not something that Colin Kaepernick wants. If Colin Kaepernick were to play for the Eagles and he was good, he'd be their #1. He'd be the fans would rally behind him. The second that he doesn't perform or he craps himself under the immense pressure that is the Philadelphia Eagles fan base, he is going to hear it, and they're going to let him hear it. A team like the Eagles would sign someone like Colin Kaepernick because they're uncertain, not about Carson Wentz's talent, but about his ability to stay healthy. The Philadelphia Eagles cannot afford another season or another missed untimely injury from Carson Wentz. You know, the team didn't really have wide receivers last year. They lacked a lot. You know, a lot of guys were hurt on the Eagles last year. So I think that's the vast majority reason as to why the Eagles weren't as good as they should be. Carson Wentz played well. The problem is that Carson Wentz had another untimely injury in the first round of the playoffs, and they brought in some Joe Schmo, who I think we all knew, who didn't play absolutely terrible, but he was not going to beat a Seattle team regardless of being in Philadelphia or not. So a team like the Eagles would sign Colin Kaepernick, but I do not think that he should go to the Eagles. The reason why I don't think is the exact thing that I just told you. A lot of pressure, and there's a good chance that he would start at some point if Carson Wentz were to get hurt. He would never in a million years start over Carson Wentz. But I don't think a team like the Eagles should go after him. Number 6 is the Vikings. Now this one kind of makes sense, but it kind of doesn't. Kirk Cousins has been given a lot of money. He's a good quarterback. But the more the moment builds, it feels like the harder it is for Kirk Cousins to perform the way he does. The Vikings would benefit from someone like Colin Kaepernick because there's a good, I don't want to say good chance, because we haven't seen anything from Kaepernick. But there would be a semi-possibility, this much, that he could actually beat out Kirk Cousins for the position. Colin Kaepernick already has playoff pedigree. He hasn't been in the league, so he's not in game shape. But Colin Kaepernick already has playoff pedigree. He already has a trip to the Super Bowl. He's got all that experience. Kirk Cousins is not a playoff performer. He's a good quarterback, but I just think that the Vikings love Kirk Cousins, but at the same time, there's part of it's in the back of their head that, is this the type of guy that can lead us to a Super Bowl? I don't really think the Vikings would go after him because I think that they put so much money into Kirk Cousins that it wouldn't make sense. So I'm going to rule the Vikings out. Number 5 actually is realistic, and it's pretty realistic. And number 5 is the LA Chargers. Now, the Chargers just drafted what is supposed to be a young prospect in Justin Herbert as quarterback, but the problem is that he's never played football before. They no longer have the veteran leadership of Phillip Rivers as he went to the Indianapolis Colts. And now this LA Chargers team is putting the faith of the franchise in a young kid who hasn't gotten his feet wet. Colin Kaepernick would be surrounded by a lot of offensive talent in LA. There's a lot of receivers, and it was a lot of different guys that I think Colin Kaepernick would really mesh well with. So if the Chargers were willing to take the gamble on Kaepernick, but I don't know if they want that distraction. And I'm not necessarily saying that Colin Kaepernick would be a terrible distraction, but I'm just not sure that the LA Chargers would want to go the route of taking Kaepernick now of all times. But at the same time, Kaepernick, you know, whether he's in game shape or not, he has experience and he has NFL knowledge that he could put onto this young kid. Obviously, Justin Herbert would be the guy they're going around. But now what happens if they take Cap and Cap beats out Justin Herbert for the starting position as quarterback? That's very possible. Because you can say what you want about Kaepernick. A lot of people crap on him, but I'm telling you this right now. Most kids coming to the NFL probably couldn't beat Kaepernick. And it bothers me because I think people crap on Kaepernick so much, and it's hate that's really not deserved. You can have your opinion of him, I get it. But that's how I feel about that. I think the Chargers is a very realistic possibility. Number 4 is almost like a no chance in hell kind of thing. Kansas City Chiefs. The only reason that the Kansas City Chiefs would get a guy like Colin Kaepernick is because there are so many weapons to work with, and they want to see what Colin Kaepernick can do. Because that offense is a very fun offense, and can make a lot of quarterbacks look good. Now, I'm going to say this right now. I said make a lot of quarterbacks look good. Patrick Mahomes is the real deal, and he is the real guy. Okay? There's a better chance of me getting bitten by a shark on land than Patrick Mahomes getting beaten out by Colin Kaepernick to start for the Kansas City Chiefs. Okay? The Chiefs are not going to get Kaepernick. I understand the idea of the offense. The Kansas City Chiefs are not going to go after a guy like Colin Kaepernick. Number 3, the Jacksonville Jaguars. To be honest, this is a team where Colin Kaepernick probably fits the best. If you ask me, the Jacksonville Jaguars have Gardner Minshew, and if you've ever watched me talk about football, you know that I sit here and tell you that Gardner Minshew is massively overpraised, because he honestly is. The guy has had a couple of good games. He plays tougher teams. I think, what did he lose to Houston? They lost 51-17 to Houston. Gardner Minshew is not a franchise quarterback for the Jaguars. Maybe he makes me bite my tongue this year. Very possible. I don't see it. I don't see it. The Jaguars, to me, are honestly the best position for Kaepernick. They've got good offensive weapons. They have a team that has potential, but I think the Jaguars have really struggled to find that quarterback. And I'm not saying Kaepernick's that guy, but I think Kaepernick would be a great guy for Jacksonville to bring in because they have weapons. They have very talented wide receivers that do not get the recognition they deserve. And I would love to see him on the Jaguars. I think the Jaguars would be a good plan, and I think, in all honesty, if Kaepernick signed with the Jaguars, I think he would beat out Minshew and he would be the starting quarterback. That's what I think. Number 2, the Houston Texans. Now, I had to do a little bit of research on Houston. I looked at Houston and I said this, well, Deshaun Watson is clearly the guy. Nobody's beating out Deshaun Watson for that quarterback spot. But I'm looking and I'm saying, well, the backup's A.J. McCarron. He kind of secured that role too. Do you think Kaepernick would beat out A.J. McCarron? I don't even know about that. People are saying that if Kaepernick signed with Houston, he would be the third stringer. Now, that benefits Kaepernick because he wouldn't have any pressure on him. He has no pressure. 90% of the time, the third string quarterback doesn't see the light of day. But there's always that 10%, and that's the problem. The Pittsburgh Steelers can tell you that they've went through about 47,000 different quarterbacks in the last season. Big Ben gets hurt. Rudolph plays. Rudolph underperforms. Hodges comes in. Hodges underperforms. The Pittsburgh Steelers. And that's a team that's not on here that I actually thought about. The Pittsburgh Steelers. Again, that's a hard place to play, and the Steelers fans are getting impatient. They want to see the team start performing to the way they are accustomed to seeing. Big Ben's days are numbered. Mason Rudolph seems to be the guy that the Steelers are hanging on right now. But the Steelers are really a team that didn't make this list that kind of made me scratch my head a little bit. The Texans are honestly, to a lot of reporters and what I've looked up, are one of the teams that are favored the most to land Colin Kaepernick. I don't really know why. But again, there's no pressure on Cap. He's third string quarterback. You know, Watson is I would say, a fairly healthy quarterback. McCarron is okay. I mean, I don't really know if I agree with McCarron having the backup spot. Well, you know, McCarron, when he played last season, when Watson was hurt or whatever, McCarron's not that bad. He was actually throwing up some dimes. So that is, and let's talk about the number 1 team. The number 1 team is the Baltimore Ravens, not to me. Now, let me explain why. Lamar Jackson and Colin Kaepernick have a play style that is very similar. Very similar. Very run heavy. They can pass the football, but they run typically a lot. Colin Kaepernick in his prime was literally a Giselle in the football league. Okay? The Baltimore Ravens are an interesting one because obviously he's the backup quarterback, but Lamar Jackson and Colin Kaepernick are so similar, and the system that is in Baltimore is designed to see guys like Lamar succeed. I don't see it happening, but the Baltimore Ravens is not as bad as you think because we know there's no way in hell. Again, it'd be a cold day in hell before a guy like Colin Kaepernick started over Lamar Jackson, but they're very similar. Kaepernick has playoff experience. You know, Lamar does, but he doesn't really, you know, he's had he has a horrible track record in the playoffs. Kaepernick has a fairly decent track record in the playoffs. I think Kaepernick could add a lot to the Ravens. Again, there's a lot of weapons to work with, and I think that system is kind of designed to see guys like Kaepernick succeed. I think, you know, obviously Lamar Jackson is the guy, and I understand that, but the system in Baltimore is designed for somebody like Colin Kaepernick. And it would be, I don't see it happening, but I think it'd be very interesting to watch if Colin Kaepernick came to the Ravens. Out of all these 8 teams, to be honest with you, the Chargers and Jaguars make the most sense. The Titans, you know, he'd be a backup. Eagles, a lot of pressure. Vikings, I don't understand. I mean, Chiefs, nope. Texans, he's not going to play. Jaguars, he could legitimately beat out. I think the Jaguars are probably the best team on this list, but I said that about Cam Newton too. Well, you know, what the hell's going on with Cam Newton? So that's all I got for you guys today. I do appreciate you watching, though, and I'll keep you updated, obviously, if there's any more Colin Kaepernick news. But Donald Trump, not that anybody values what he says anyway, Donald Trump has actually urged teams to sign Kaepernick. He also said he's not going to watch if they kneel. Unfortunately, I hate to break it to you, Mr. President, the NFL does not care if you don't watch. I don't. I'm still going to watch the league. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, do everything. Continue to stay safe.